not giving her
Chicken.
meat.
Right.
That's the go-to.
Right.
Chicken breast.
I'm like,
The healthiest part of the chicken.
Jerk curry goat.
right. Right. Okay.
Some jerk salmon.
Okay, y'all ready?
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2.5.
Welcome to another edition of the Empower Hour. I am Alqamar.
And I'm Hanifah.
And we're right back at you every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. with another impactful, important topic of discussion that affects our everyday lives. Today will be no different. We have a super duper special studio guest here with us, the infamous, the one and only, Mr. Tico Wells.
Who is that? Who is it?
Yeah. You
Welcome.
guys may be familiar with this space because you starred in one of my very, very favorite movies, The Five Heartbeats.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did 28 years ago.
28 years ago.
Thank y'all for having me again.
Yes, welcome again. Welcome back.
Yes.
Get my radio voice. Thank y'all for having me.
We love having you
I
on.
love being on. This is like coming home.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is like
literally.
coming home. It's fun. And matter of fact, next door is where I saw The Exorcist when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. There was a movie theater next
There was a movie theater.
Really?
Yeah.
We telling your age.
This is my old hood.
I
The
did
police
not know
station
that.
up there used to be my elementary school.
Wait, where the hair shop is at? Is
No,
where
there's
the
a
theater
police
was
station
at?
up the hill. If you go right around one of these streets.
No,
you
I
go
mean the
up top,
theater. It was where the
they
hair
turned
shop
our
is.
school. Yeah.
And the the fitness.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
It was very empty over there. It was just like empty and eerie, and then this movie theater in the back. And
Really?
The Exorcist playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, a lot of the hometown folk
Yeah.
will remember you a lot more so because of, not just your movies, but just, hanging around. Oh,
Hanging
I remember
around.
Tico win.
Hanging around.
Yeah.
Just hanging around on the corner. Dude, hanging around.
Yeah.
You're originally from this area?
I'm from D.C. I was born in Columbia Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and grew up in PG County. Went to Laurel High School.
Mm-hmm.
Laurel, Maryland. Where you from? Laurel, Maryland.
Yeah. Okay. So when'd you move away?
Oh man, see, you're running numbers now, so people get nervous and start running numbers. After college.
Okay.
I went to Bowie
early
State. I went to
teens,
Bowie.
late.
I went to Bowie State, and then I actually applied to get into NYU for drama school,
Mm-hmm.
but they turned me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Bowie
Mm-hmm.
and ended up having a fantastic time. The head of the department came from down south, and he brought all these people with him. So Bowie in that year went from kind of zero to like, bam, we were on the map competing with Howard and University of Maryland and Morgan State and all the other schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at the right place at the right time. But because I got turned down by NYU, I was determined to reapply.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 years at Bowie, I reapplied and then got accepted to NYU and moved to
Okay.
New York.
So that's always been a lifelong dream for yours then, huh?
Yeah,
To be an
I
actor.
originally wanted to be a football player and a scientist.
Hmm.
I wanted to be a Washington Redskin. And I played Little League football in the area. Matter of fact, I went to see Mr. Montague Shepard, my Little League football coach, the other day. He's 92 years old, so
Oh,
shout
wow.
out to Mr. Shepard.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow that big. I'm like
For
5'9",
football?
155 pounds, and guys were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was like, something is not adding up. So I got into the arts. I was always into the arts, but I just kept on going and decided on acting and music and stuff like that. And
Cool. Are you still passionate about football?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a love-hate relationship because it's a little weird, like health-wise. Like Dick Gregory said before he died, he said, you could line up 10 people on this side in their cars, and 10 people and 9 people on this side, and you could tell a guy driving up, say, hey, look, get over on that side with the 10 people, and let me start the story. 11 cars on this side, 10 on that side. You could pick anybody off the street and say, go over there and line up your car. And then when I blow the whistle, y'all go and smash your cars together. And everybody will say no. But you tell 10 people to get on, 11 people get on that side, and 11 people get on that side. And when I blow the whistle, go smash your bodies up against each other. And they'll say, oh yeah, that's cool, man. I'm tough. I'm a football
Real
player.
talk.
So it's a little cycle
Right. It's
to
interesting.
do with your body, like to just
I have a
crash into each other.
first cousin who played for the Raiders.
Oh, yeah?
Steve Smith.
Okay.
For a few years. And he came down with what they diagnosed as Lyme's disease. But, now that's what we've all been told. But, just based on my understanding of football, I question that.
Lyme's disease.
Yeah, exactly. I
Okay.
question that. So yeah, he kind of, he lost his, I think it was neurological. He, he can't move. He's in a wheelchair.
Okay.
He uses the computer to speak and
Okay.
things of that nature. So
Yeah.
young, healthy,
I
vibrant.
love football. I love it. I mean, it's a fun game to watch and to play. I remember getting hit where I felt like I was running the ball and I got hit head on with this guy, and it felt like my whole spine was an accordion. It went in and came back out, and then I was laying on the ground.
Ouch.
And then back then, we didn't have much of a medical staff. They just would turn you over, pull your pants up so you can breathe, and go, breathe, breathe. And then they carry you off and say, suck it up, suck it up.
Wow.
That was your treatment.
Wow.
Tough it out, let's go, tough it out, tough it out, tough it out.
And you can barely move. And you can barely move.
I'm like 12 years old, I'm like, okay, sure, coach.
Okay, well, we are here to actually
But life
talk
is like
about
that. Life is
spirituality.
Let's talk spirituality.
Is the
I'm up
topic of our discussion. But with you, we can go in
Yes.
so many different directions.
We can.
Because you're just so well versed in a lot of different topics.
That's a
So-
blessing and a curse sometimes.
Yeah.
But let's go. What you want to talk about?
Hanifah, you want to?
Well, the reason why we kind of decided to talk about this, the last time you were here, we were discussing our favorite books, the books that had the most influence on us, and you kind of touched a lot on your journey of, I would say, enlightenment maybe, or spirituality, and we kind of wanted to delve a little deeper into that because we were
Yeah.
intrigued.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
so-
intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's sort of why we figured we'll talk about this particular
Beautiful,
topic, to know that
beautiful.
side of you.
Beautiful, because I'm still moving and
I think
exploring.
I think you had mentioned, and I might be wrong, you can correct me, I think you mentioned going to the mountains or something at one point?
Yeah.
Then I spend a lot of times in the hills and
In the
in
hills.
Calabasas.
Where
and
is that?
California.
In California.
Yeah, in LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us like what started you on what do you want to call it? Your spiritual journey or journey to enlightenment? I don't know. Whatever you want to.
Well, the words are funny.
Yeah, I know.
Because at this point, I'm really sensitive to words, in the sense of some of them don't have as much meaning as they used to.
I agree.
And if you keep using a certain word over and over and over again, it sounds funny.
Yeah.
You ever do that? Like when you were
Yes.
kids, you say a word over and over. So even the word spirituality is now taking on this whole, like, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
It's like, and then some people say we're all spiritual, spiritual beings having a human experience. So I've gone through, as a kid, going to Bible studies and going to Bible school and all that stuff, and really only knowing that Christianity was spiritual, to being exposed to the fact that around the world and throughout history, each culture develops some form of understanding about how we are, what are we made of, what is this? I used to say that to my friend a lot. We used to say it to each other, like, what is this? This life? Where are we? Some say we're on a planet floating in the galaxy, and then we have these gods that different societies create, and then we have this word belief, which means I don't really know, but I'm going down that road because mom and them told me to, or the guru told me, or somebody. So I've had to revisit a lot of my words. I don't use the word belief anymore as much as I used to, because it really says you don't know.
Yeah. And it's an interesting factor. And by the way, family, if you guys have any questions for Tico, we are accepting calls. You can call in on 240-455-5934. Again, that's 240-455-5934. Speaking of words, I actually think or believe that I think the closer you get to the spirit realm, the more sensitive you are to words. I could recall sometime back in the day, I mean, I'm just shooting off stuff, versus today, I'm more cognizant of the words that I'm choosing, because I tend to go deeper into the meaning of them. What does this really mean? You know, I'm saying it all day, every day. But what does it really mean? Where does it come from? What's the origin of this? Why am I saying it?
What kind of energy?
Yeah. So I think even that, being more aware of the words you choose, is a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
What you think?
You know, if you look at the etymology or the origin of words, sometimes they have no connection to how we use them today.
That's so true.
You know, I like doing that, Googling a word like, where did this come from? Oh, this is some French stuff, or this is some ancient, some, you know, a lot of words we use are Latin in the English language, but also Greek. You know, so when I started breaking down what my Christian history was, it was sort of like, I used to say this word, Judeo-Christian. I was like, why do I keep saying Judeo? I thought Judaism was something and Christianity was something. But then Islam is connected to it too, and those are the three major religions, and somebody put them all together in various forms. I'm at a point now where I'm either ignorant enough or crazy enough to say that I don't know a lot of what I thought I knew 10 years ago, 20 years ago, hardly yesterday. But language and spirituality is a language. Each religion is a language within the realm of spirituality. So there's a Christian language. There's a Hebrew Israelite language. Words that inside of that culture they use, like the Most High. Like when I got introduced to Hebrew Israelite, it was always, the Most High, the small. We don't use the word God because that's dog spelled backwards, so we don't use that, you know. But then with the Muslim brothers, they might, you know, everything's Allah, Allah, and they have a certain routine. So Judaism, you know, all these other religions, you know, if we go back to Africa, we always talk about Kemet and Egypt. But what about the rest of the continent? What are they practicing? What were they practicing? You know, where, you know, the Orishas over here in this group, they're practicing. What makes their language of spirituality better or worse than another culture? Who gets to decide that? So for me, it's just been learning and realizing that maybe spirituality is everything we do and think, and maybe we're all connected to something greater. I'm okay with that, you know, whether we say God, the universe, the force, the source. I like that one too, the source. You know, there's something that we seem to be able to pull from, and it's not something you can necessarily see. Like one day somebody said, let's have a radio station here. Oh, cool idea, let's get a logo. Hey, let's get a logo. Next thing you know, things start coming together, and they appear. And some people say, see, God blessed you with that.
Right.
Some people would say, you manifested it. So this language for the similar activities that are happening. you call it different things, but it's really the same thing.
So where does the trouble come in though? That sounds all so glorious. So why are people killing each other?
I got something for you.
Over something that's just so glorious at the root.
I heard this the other day. I'm a student of Landmark Education. Have y'all heard of Landmark? The forum, they do seminars on self-development. I was at a seminar the other night, and we were talking about the design of humanity, the design. And they were saying that underneath, the class was about success. They were saying that underneath is this feeling of being a loser. And it's infused everywhere. So we have, something happens to us in childhood, and we decide that something's wrong. Daddy left, or mama slapped me, or I lost my blue balloon, or whatever, and it hurt us.
Something that needs to be fixed.
Huh?
I mean, something that needs to be fixed.
Yes, something is wrong and it needs to be fixed. Everything okay?
You all can keep going. Our system had to reboot, so it's rebooting.
Okay,
We're gonna keep
we
going through your
still-
cameras, and then we're gonna come back around and pick this up.
Okay.
There's something happens in our childhood, and it's devastating to us. It hurts us, and we figure out how we're going to survive it by becoming smart, creative. We're going to compensate for that pain that we felt. Some people take it to, I'm going to be the baddest criminal. Somebody else might take it, I'm going to be Usain Bolt. We're going to compensate for that pain, and we're never going to let that pain hurt us again. And we become really good at that little success strategy. The only problem is built on a pile of crap, which is, I'm not good enough, something's wrong here, I'm all alone, I've been hurt, I've been raped, beaten, killed, devastated. That's why I like slavery. We hold on to that. It's something that happened, and we're building our whole life on top of that. It's a rough foundation.
Funny you say that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm reading Dr. Joy DeGree's book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And she's touched on that as to how a lot of our pain and anger and frustration at the way we lash out is because of the level of respect or disrespect we receive. And we don't like that. You know, we've been disrespected, we've been beat down so low, so long. And now, I dare you to call me an N.
Exactly.
Because now I will bash your face in.
Unless it's a person that looks like you.
That's an interesting concept.
Don't let a white person call a black person nigga.
Very interesting concept. So we don't mind disrespecting ourselves.
Right. But what happens is ultimately it's not fulfilling. You can get all the money in the world. You can get all the accolades. You can get all the houses, cars, love, everything on the surface. But ultimately it's not fulfilling because the basis of it is faulty. The basis is faulty. The foundation is faulty. So check this out. So there's that. That's the standard model, is to front. I'm good. I'm the Hollywood actor. I'm here. I'm in town. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. That's the old model. The new model is creating an invented future. Creating a future by design. Creating a life by design. Not as a compensation. It could be, I'm going to do something. I'm going to find out what love is. I'm going to build something on love. I'm going to build something just because I say I want to do it. Not because I'm damaged and I've got to prove to you that I'm good enough. Okay? I listened to Jerry Rice yesterday on television. He said all the years in the NFL, he didn't enjoy it because the foundation is messed up. Terrell Owens, the foundation. We can go Cosby, me, you, everybody in this room. Until we wake up and realize we're already successful. We're already spiritual.
We're already good.
We're already blessed.
Yes.
We're already good.
Yes.
And there's just things and opportunities to explore and experience. And now we're free.
That's good stuff. Because I was gonna ask two things. I think you touched on it a little bit, but I was gonna ask, what happens when we build on that type of foundation? So year in and year in, we're adding a new brick, adding more bricks, and we what happens eventually if we continue to do so? Because the reason why I ask, and I'll let you answer that, is that I think what you're talking about is oftentimes where we see people who we consider successful, right? How we've been told we should define success, and so we project that onto each other. We measure each other based on somebody else's definition of success, and that's why oftentimes we can see people who are successful, and when that part, that foundation that they think that they have built enough stuff on top of to hide begins to get exposed, we begin to see people unravel. And most of us can't make the connection because we're like, they have everything that they could ever need. Like, why would you self-destruct? Because their insecurities are now being exposed, and that's what they've been hiding. We say building, but which is still the same thing.
Yeah.
The building is a part of covering. So I'm gonna build and build. I mean, you can meet people, something is off, but they're so layered. You can't quite get what it is.
Or it's so confusing because you're off to something else because they're portraying something else that you can't really focus in
but
on.
something comes along in life where, like I would say, when you have an earthquake, a lot of things come to the surface. So we're gonna have some sort of natural disaster that comes into our lives, and it's going to bring those things to the surface. Something is going to happen that's going to trigger that, and you see it happen with people where they've built and they've done a good job at it, but then somewhere, like someone could say something really minor, and you're like,
flick off.
Why is that bothering you so much? The foundation he's talking about. So talk to us about what happens if we don't address it and we continue to build on it. What eventually happens?
Well, a couple of things came to my mind. One of the things that even Dr. Baruch and I had a conversation that was about Kanye, and what he said about slavery sounds like a choice. People lost their minds. Why? Possibly, I'm not saying this is the correct answer, but what I saw is that foundation, the attachment.
Thank you.
There's an attachment to us as African Americans and everybody else with slavery.
As a victim.
Nobody wants to see. If you take away that story,
yes,
then who am I now?
As a victim.
Our identity, that's our identity. Like you said, that's the foundation that a lot of us are building on. So it becomes our identity.
Exactly.
And so now what you're messing with is my identity. You're trying to put me in a position where I have to now give that part of myself up. And I refuse to do so. Because then if I give that up, I really don't know who I am. Because a lot of us do not know ourselves outside of that history. And it's cyclical because we teach our children how to identify themselves within the context of the history of slavery.
Much
so
like
correct.
religion. Religion is the same concept.
Same thing. If I'm no longer a Christian, then who am I?
Absolutely.
How can I relate to my Christian brothers and sisters now if they're identifying me as not a Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever anybody is? What if I don't have an identification anymore to any of that old model? Who am I? Carlton Pearson, y'all you familiar with Carlton Pearson?
Yes, and there's the movie out on Netflix
the movie
about
on Netflix
it.
called Come Sunday.
Yep.
Well, he and I have become friends over the years, and I get it. Like, what happens when you get to a point when what you thought last week no longer is authentic to your spirit, but you're making money. It's like the drug dealer who keeps selling even though he's had an awakening. He realizes he may be damaging his own community, but he can't get off. The gang member who feels like who knows that he's might be hurting his own family, his own community, his own people, but he can't get off that ship.
I think that's the conflict between the physical and the spiritual.
I think when Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it becomes, in those examples you just shared, it becomes conflicting.
Yeah.
So you know, as a drug dealer, that
Yeah.
what you're doing deep down, you
Yeah.
know you shouldn't be doing this, but you do it anyway because you
Yeah.
got to provide for your family, you got to feed. So you think
And
you
you're
have to
making
do it anyway.
you're making paper.
Right.
But it doesn't
Physical.
stop. Check this out. It doesn't stop with the quote unquote negative stereotypes. It's the doctor, it's the lawyer, it's the teacher, it's the truck driver. It's all of us are faced with doing stuff that we know is not really congruent to who we really are. We're going to get jobs because it provides a certain amount of income. And we've been taught that in order to be successful, you have to work. Okay? Not
and
necessarily
make a
you
certain
have
amount
to,
of money.
but not necessarily do anything that feeds your spirit
Yeah.
or feeds your soul.
Yeah.
You know, but be a doctor because you can buy a nice house and send your kids to good school.
The
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah, you know what the Carlton Pearson thing. I came in. I was in the Pentecostal church all of my 20s. I came into church when that was happening, so I remember the chatter. I remember the chatter that came across the pulpit. I did not know who he was because I wasn't raised in church, so I was actually coming into church in my 20s. And I remember so recently I watched the movie and I was like, oh, this is what the hoopla was about.
Yeah.
And because my consciousness have changed so much, I was just looking at it like, I don't think people realize how painful it is to be awakened to a certain truth
Yeah.
that is not the majority.
Yeah.
It is a painful process to go through. I had a conversation once with someone, and I know I'm gonna get some backlash on this one, but the conversation was, I'm to the point where I don't have the language for it or the articulation yet, but it's a feeling of transcending what we consider blackness and what that looks like. And I've been really juggling that in my own spirit. And what does that look, for me, like you said, you start to say, well, what does that look like for me? What does my life look like? If you know, because I do read things that encourages that, knowing that you're more than this flesh, that you dwell in. And if I'm more than this flesh, because really truly this flesh is what connects me to what we consider blackness. So if I disconnect from that and I connect identify as a spiritual being, what does that look like? What does that mean? So I don't have the words or the articulation for it, or or even the space to have the conversation, because I don't fully, it hasn't really fully unfolded for me as yet.
And what happens is, what those who don't understand what you're saying, there's now here comes the labels, because they can't comprehend in their minds what that looks like.
And
so
so
now
most of us tread cautiously because we're a minority in this. So we like I always say, no one wants to be the minority within the minority. Right. So we tread cautiously. Most of us are feeling these things, but we don't have the space because come on, we have a cancel culture in the black community. They will cancel you in a minute if you just say the wrong thing. Like you just said, the reaction that you saw with the Kanye thing, and we got backlash too. Just on Facebook, having the conversation, and we were like, well, I think what he's trying to say, and they were like, no. I'm like, oh my, okay. So we can't have this conversation. So we even try to tread cautiously in those things. But people have these experiences, spiritual experiences, and it sometimes they feel like it can be in conflict with their knowledge of self as far as it's connected to their blackness. I don't know how to word this.
No,
I'm trying.
No, words are what we live in. We live inside of words and language, even though we don't think it. Everything is inside of language. Girl, boy, LGBTQIA. I heard IA lately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I heard the term non-binary.
I heard that one.
I just got that like 3 weeks ago. Non-binary. Okay, which they're saying we're not male, female. Don't put us in that bag. So I'm experimenting with stepping outside of some of those categories of actor. They were asking, well, what title do you want on this interview? Actor. That's such a small piece of what I, you know what I'm saying? When did I become that? When did I become that label of actor? You know, was it in first grade when I was up on the top of the hill, you know, playing a moonbeam in a play, you know, or you know, even I put health enthusiast. I don't know what to call myself. You know, African American is too small for me. Black is too small for me. Man is too small for me. Any labels that I can think of is too small. You know, how big is God? How big is the universe? How deep do we go as spiritual beings? We don't. We're just scratching the surface on it and waking up to awakening. And what I like that Kanye said is, let's start defining ourselves for ourselves. Okay? Because if I let another person, period, no matter what color they are, define me for me, I've got to live that language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but look, you know when words in the dictionary, like you say you use a dictionary, you look up a word, they usually have the definitions number. So someone gives you a title, right? And there's only this many definitions, right? But you have grown far beyond those 4 definitions. So then you start to struggle with that title or that label that that person has given you. And I often say the labels, like you just listed a ton of them. For me, it was me battling with the whole black piece, you know, and I'm like, I feel like black is so limited and almost like a prison.
It's
and the
old.
reason is almost like a prison because because of the connotations that are kind of connected to it. People live within the confines of those definitions of what blackness is, and like you said, like we were talking about building on those foundations. It's like if we accept it as just that, then we also feel like we can't live beyond what those definitions are of that particular label.
Speaking of, you had mentioned something about God, the word God being, you know, too small, or man being too small. How do you feel about man being God?
I don't know if there's any separation, because to me, we stay from the Christian perspective. It was always man is created in the image and likeness of God. But when I started looking at it, I started saying, no, wait a minute. Man created God in His image, particularly from the Christian perspective, because God is a male. God gets mad. God has temper tantrums. God likes you, He gives you presents. He doesn't like you, He'll kill you. If He's really mad at you, He'll burn you up forever.
You have a point.
You'll be
And that sounds like man.
And I retired from that concept. I grew up in that concept, but I retired from it. And it's weird, you know, having played, my most significant film role is 5 Heartbeats and Choir Boy. So a lot of people from the church relate to me as that character. They don't really know me, the person. So I had a lot of conflicts for a long time about that. As I began to grow and expand, I felt like, oh, I'm going to let this population of people down if I really start sharing who I am, which is no longer that. I still get benefits from whatever lessons I've learned, but I'm not stuck in any one category of language anymore. I don't want to be. I don't want to be.
You talk about you talked about how big is God. It's like how big is the universe, like the vastness. And one of the things that I struggled with, I questioned when I was in church was the 66 books that we call the Bible, the canonization of the 66 books. I would always ask the question, because they'll say everything that you need to know is within those 66 books. Now so then now I went on to say, well, who chose these 66 books and why? Because there are other books, and why were these 66 books canonized? You know, and so how do we say this is the word of God? And my second question would always be, did God stop speaking? Because if it's just limited to this book, where did God stop speaking and man stop writing what God says? Like, you know, and I remember asking someone and they made a joke. This is my ex-husband actually, and he said, oh, now you're sounding like a Mormon, you know, because, you know, but I'm like, but it makes no sense, because what are you saying that these particular men in this time were the only people that God spoke to, and if you're saying to me that God still speaks today, then the Bible, the quote unquote Bible, is a continued, a fluid, continued, document. You can't, it's a living document. You can't say it ends here.
Right.
It ends in Revelation,
Right.
or, it ended when Paul letters to the churches ended. It didn't make any sense to me. So now, for me, I feel like we have to remain open, because this thing that we're talking about, it's so much to it, right? You learn so much daily, weekly, monthly.
Yeah.
Who you are. I always tell people who I'm sitting next to, the Alqamar I'm sitting next to today is not the Alqamar I'm going to sit next to tomorrow. We're always evolving.
Right. Like I was saying, it's been a year since we've seen each other, and so much happens in that 12-month period of time.
Right.
But going back to your question, biblically speaking, I didn't grow up understanding what Rome was. I didn't understand what the Romans were. I didn't know about the Roman Empire as a kid. I didn't know their effect on the Bible and their creation from wherever they got it from. The Greek part or the Hebrew part. It's like they conquered these people, they took their books and smashed them together and created what we call the Bible, and then told everybody, not only can you not read it, but it's holy. Only these people who are the scribes can read it or the
interpret
Pope or the
it.
priest. So most of the African American Christians that I grew up with, they have no idea that their foundation comes from the Roman Catholic Church. They have no idea about that, because history was not part of our training. And we were using the Bible as a history, yet there are no dates. So I ask people, when was Jesus here? And they go, I think he was between and they make up a date.
Or say nobody really knows.
Or say nobody, or it doesn't matter.
Down
Or it doesn't matter.
Right.
His color doesn't matter.
Right.
None of this stuff matters, but yet this is historical text.
Right.
So, and then how could Moses write about the beginning of the world if he wasn't born yet? I don't know. How could he write about his death before he died?
Yes, true.
So I don't know. I'm not, Christians will be upset probably that I'm even having this conversation. They may say he's confused. He's trying to find it. Oh yeah, he's going through that period where he's trying to find himself, and that's okay. I'm okay with that now. It took me a long time to get to the place where I could face that heat.
And that's the dissonance that we all have in some way, shape, or form. Really, is that whatever somebody else's journey, when somebody else's journey makes us uncomfortable, we got to compensate that.
Right.
With, he don't know what he talking about. He don't know because it's an uncomfortable feeling for ourselves.
I think of even like the Christ story, and that there was always one even before Jesus of Nazareth came on the scene. And when you have these conversations with Christians, it's like they don't even want to begin to even consider it. And so once you understand that, and then you start to look at the scriptures, because I had to learn very quickly that a lot of those of us that were calling ourselves Christians didn't really know what the Bible said. We know what the pastor said, but we didn't know what the Bible said. And once I started to read and see what Christ was saying, it was, even in those scriptures, it's him trying to really teach us that we can be
do better,
anointed ones too.
Right.
Like we are, in other words. Yes.
Right.
He was, it wasn't that, I need to be glorified as this. It was like, this is who we are.
As an example.
There you go.
Right.
But we also, and what I'm learning to do, hopefully better and better, is to let go of my needing to bash any group in order to elevate myself. So I don't need to bash white people or religious people or anybody else to make myself significant, or because I'm definitely don't want to be significant. Like I want to have fun. And
that's that. You always have me say, you will never catch me in unless I'm sitting down with a Christian now and they genuinely just want to have a dialogue, but you'll never catch me in a back and forth, because it makes no sense, because I understand like the power of someone's own journey and someone's own experience, because once you walk it for yourself and you experience, like, no one, it doesn't matter what anyone says, because you know what your experience is, and you're like, no, I've kind of like moved on from that has become old to me now.
And the thing about it too is that when they say we're born in sin, see, that's also in alignment with what I was talking about earlier about we're fundamentally building on top of we're a loser. So even infused in certain religions is that you're nothing. Matter of fact, you're bad. You're sinful. Okay, and we're building on top of that, and it's painful.
But that same thing, you know, Tico, what you just said, the loser piece with you're born in sin, then it's added in there. You not only are you born in sin, but now you need someone to fix that for you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even encourage self-sufficiency as far as your own journey is concerned. You're waiting for somebody to do it for you.
So
you need somebody came and
Jesus
fixed it.
come
There you
back.
go. Right.
Yeah.
No, but he has already done it. You just have to trust in that. You know what I mean? So it's not really
confusing to me.
It is.
I never understood that part of it. But nevertheless,
What this conversation is years and years and years of our evolution to get to this point where we not only don't want physical slavery, we don't want to be beat down or victimized, we don't want religious slavery.
We just right.
And it takes something happening in your life where something cracks open.
Yeah.
You know, Eckhart Tolle, the guy who wrote The Power of Now, talks about, you know, him sitting on park benches and all of a sudden one day he really woke up and got it. Like, there's only the moment.
Yeah.
There's only right now.
Yeah.
And the stress comes from the illusionary conversations about what happened or what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's a spiritual journey in and of itself too, the whole waking up process, the whole becoming woke. I really believe that, there's that word believe again, that it's not a situation where you can just slap it on somebody. You know, you can't, I don't care, you can give them all the evidence. You can show, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can prove it 100 times over.
Yeah.
But it's a spiritual thing. If it's not your time to be spiritually awakened to that newfound understanding, you won't be.
You're not ready.
You won't
You're
be.
not ready. I think of where I'm at now, and I think of people who I have met while I was in church.
Yeah.
And the seed was planted, it was there, but I could not really, I wasn't ready.
Right.
So then now I go back to I could go way back in my childhood and remember seeds that were planted, and I'm just like, you know, or books you come into contact with, and you're like, this was written when?
Right.
Why am I just seeing this? You know, because you weren't ready.
Right.
You weren't. They say what's the thing? They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah.
You know, when I studied martial arts and Taoism, you know, people go Taoism, Taoist. I was taught as Taoism. Part of Taoism is kind of like the way, and they say when you are clear that you know the way, it's clear that you don't. When you can grab it, it's not that. When you can name it, that's the wrong name.
Sound like something my father used to always say. He used to say, one thing I know for sure is the more I know, but he said the more I realize how much I know is when I realize I don't know nothing at all.
Nothing. The master always understands he doesn't know anything, and it's not really required. Some of my greatest experiences in life came through not knowing how I was going to even get there, or or somebody shows up in your life that you couldn't have scripted. But living a life of moment to moment, moment to moment to moment to moment, being here now in this moment, there is nothing wrong.
How much does fear play in not being able to get to that moment?
Fear seems to be part of this design that's the old model. You don't even have to work at it. It's in us now. It's like slavery. It's in our DNA. It's going to take effort to create by the renewing of our minds, the renewing of our words. I don't when people say black people can't work together, I say I can't receive that. I know I have too many experiences with African American black people, brothers and sisters, who have worked together, and I was a part of it, or I saw it. So I don't succumb to that. I don't succumb to this one's all good, that one's Trump's all bad,
Right.
Obama's all good.
Right.
I don't succumb to that.
Good
These are
teacher.
human beings.
Yes.
Good teacher.
I saw Trump go to write that executive order the other day after the outpouring of people saying this is wrong.
Yeah.
He had to move with the people.
Yeah.
I saw Trump go over to Singapore and meet with Kim Jong.
On Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. After Dennis Rodman has set up such a beautiful foundation. Dennis Rodman,
Yeah.
okay? Dennis
Yeah.
Rodman.
Right.
Dennis Rodman, the
Right.
beautiful creature known as Dennis, the beautiful entity, person, being known as Dennis Rodman. Okay? Trump goes over there and says, I like this dude. After bashing him. So what that tells me is that even somebody like a George Bush, a Trump, a Jong-un has the essence of the universe, has the essence of love, has the essence of spirituality.
Yeah.
It comes in all forms. I no longer am a person that says black people are the only carriers of spirituality. I'm no longer a person that says white people are the only carriers of evil.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
Where,
another.
where,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
where does the idea or the insecurity around not knowing comes from?
School. In school, the teacher says, who's the first president of the United States? Who's the first president of the United States? And little Tommy goes, ooh, 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 pick me, ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, Tommy, Abraham Lincoln. Ah! And all the kids laugh. What happens to Tommy now next time she asks a question? Does he raise his hand? No, he's shut down. And he begins to go, no, I don't like to speak in public.
But then we proceed to pretend that we know. Because like you're talking about, when it comes to spirituality, we really, like you said, if you can touch it, that ain't it. If you can say that's it, that ain't it.
Right.
So it's really a thing of, I don't really know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the base you were talking about in the beginning.
Know.
That,
we
that
don't
we,
know.
we
And
feed.
it's okay that we don't know.
That's what I mean. That the idea that
The
it's
little-
not okay
Yeah.
is the issue
Well,
here.
see,
that's
if
the
you get a
stuff we
test
build
paper,
on. You
yeah,
mentioned
that's,
that
that's the
starting the
loser, and
conversation.
that's that test paper that
Right.
says, oh, you got 40 out of 100,
Yeah.
so you're bad.
You're not good enough.
You're not good enough.
You gotta
You're
repeat
the
the third
dumb
grade.
kid.
Mhm.
You're the
You
dumb
gotta
kid in the family.
overcompensate
Yeah.
some other way.
Yeah, and the
For
kid
that.
who got the A, we praise that person because they got the answers. And sometimes the answers
matter
are
how
the
they got
booby
them,
prize.
Right.
It don't matter how they got the answers.
No.
So they might just be better at memorization.
Good point.
And and cold, just a cold person. You know what I'm saying? But the booby prize sometimes is knowing. If I say, oh, I know Hanifah, she's like this, I no longer continue getting to know her.
There you go.
I've put her in a box,
Yes.
put her in an iPhone, and that's
This is
all.
who
She
she
can't
is.
grow anywhere. That's what happens in relationships.
Yeah.
People
Yes.
get married, people get
Yeah.
into
Yes.
friendships, and they begin to say, oh, I know that
Yes,
person.
and you know what? The minute that person, right, because that's the lock-in that we do,
Mhm.
the minute that person begin to outgrow that, it
Yeah.
becomes uncomfortable for us, and
Yeah.
this is where the conflict comes in, because
Yeah.
how dare you? No, this is who you are, Tico. You
Yeah.
can't go outside the lines. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
Where are you going? This is who I know you are. So now you're putting me in a place where I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's uncomfortable, not knowing.
You
I
guys-
don't know if I can trust her now. She
Yeah.
drove down a different street yesterday.
You guys just described for me the condition of society right now.
It's all of us.
The me
It's
against
all of
you,
us.
It
the
is.
Democrats
It is.
against Republicans,
Yes.
the Trump against us, and
Exactly.
you know,
It
it's
is
like
all of us.
We
This
are
is
no
this-
different than Trump.
Yeah.
We are no different than Obama. Obama had 8 years in the White House. How much really changed? I don't know. I'm not that good of an astute politician. I do know this, that Trump is no better or worse than me. I'm no better or worse than Trump, or my minister, or the preacher, or the Pope. They're no better than, none of us are any better than anybody else. And that is a fear that we have. Because in the old model of society we have, it's this is the correct way to live. This is the correct way to have a relationship. This is the correct way to manage your money.
This is the correct way to parent.
This is the correct way. And if anybody steps outside of that, they are heretic, they're evil, they're confused.
They're other.
They're other. They're others.
Yeah. And they'll lock you away, and sometimes
lock
kill
you away. Lock you away. They want to kill you. I mean, the fact that people would actually say, if you see Kanye on the street, you know, F him up.
That
for
was
having
so
a difference of opinion.
That's pain. That's pain speaking.
Deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it doesn't care. This idea that we're born in sin, born as losers, it has no respect for persons. It's every one of us.
Yeah.
And when we get to pull the mask back, and we're always another mask. We don't even know totally what's authentic, but all we can do is play in that soup of, can I show you myself? Can you show me you? And if you're not comfortable showing me that next level, that's okay. There's no law that says you have to show me that level until you're ready. So in the Me Too movement, what we have to teach is consent. What we also have to teach is to be able to say no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you're a gazillionaire, but I'm not going to go to your house right now. Let's meet at a restaurant.
Yes.
I know you're a gazillionaire.
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility has to be infused in every discipline, including Me Too, because if not, you're going to create a generation of more victimhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But there was something I was going to ask, but I think I lost my train of thought.
Oh man!
When you were talking about the born in sin, and as soon as you said it in my mind, I say, and shaped in iniquity.
Shaped in iniquity.
You were because it's not just born in sin. They don't stop there. They say you're shaped in iniquity. So everything about you is wrong. Everything, something is.
God made a mistake when He made you.
Absolutely.
And His design was off. So you, instead of you coming out in beauty, love, godliness, you're coming out in sin and ugliness and iniquity.
And you spend your entire life trying to reconcile.
You spend your whole life trying to build on top of that. And that's why you see these holier than thou people fall so deeply, because even, you know, I'll say this, I lost a house 2 years ago, and I'm even working on that language, lost. I moved from one space to another space, right? One I was very attached to for 15 years. It no longer worked for my life. I was holding on dearly to say, hey, am I cool? I have this. All right, cool?
Right.
You know? Right?
Yeah.
Right? And to be able to just say that it's like how attached I was.
It's freedom in that. It's freedom in
I'm not stressed out right now, worrying about the heater blowing out and the this going and the that and the this and that. And it was an attack on my ego.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have my family come and visit me in my spot.
Yeah.
I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment now. Okay.
Yeah.
Who does that make me?
Right.
Who does that make me?
But you see what you're talking about too, the way that we utilize social media now, even adds to that. Now you're talking about childhood and how that whole comparison and competition as far as our intellect is concerned, our intelligence and how it's measured at a very young age. So this person here is the honor student, this person here didn't make the honors, so they don't make the honor society, right? So that starts very young, and then we start to get older. I always tell people, don't look at where someone is at and compare yourself. You will do yourself a disservice to that. But what I'm starting to realize too is that, and I have to check, I constantly have to check myself now, because I can't really tell you where I'm at, because a lot of things in the world is dumb to me. It makes no sense. The things that we're attached to, the things that we are in a frenzy about, the things that we are upset about, it makes no sense to me. I'm like, these are really small things. It makes no sense to me. So I was telling my friend the other day, I said, I'm surprised I'm not depressed, because this world is just becoming I'm losing my appetite.
I feel like an alien most days.
Totally.
I get you. I get you.
Like out of place.
And what happens is a lot of times we consume ourselves with those things that you may seem as silly and meaningless, and we consume ourselves with them, and that's like, then everything becomes silly and meaningless.
Like, so they had an argument online too.
Yeah.
Two women had an argument, and you just mentioned an apartment, and one of them said to the other one, you know, I have a house, you know, go get your money up and own some property. And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean that person in that 2-bedroom apartment living happy, probably, or maybe not? I mean, does that mean they're less than you because you have a mortgage?
That's the story.
I'm confused. Like,
that's the story. I'll clear that up if I can.
Yes.
That's the story. We live inside a story that says the American dream is a house and a picket fence.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And if you don't have that, you haven't achieved the pride of ownership. And really, the pride of ownership sometimes is a disaster waiting to happen. Okay. A lot of times, foreclosures, people just blame the bank. They're involved, yes, but it's also greed and ego that made you feel like you needed to get in that much debt.
Teach on that.
Compensation.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm happy and working towards maintaining that debt. So now you have to work extra hard sometimes just to maintain that debt.
Right.
Versus somebody in a 2-bedroom apartment that can travel and do other things because they don't have that debt to maintain. Steve.
To piggyback on that, and I'm also working on letting people speak and finish their thoughts. You know, we're so eager to say what we gotta say. Forgive me.
That's passion. No.
No, but it's also a habit. I'm used to doing it, especially if I'm being interviewed. I got so much to say. I want to, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the old model, and it's like waking ourselves up all day long. Waking up to, she's speaking. Shut up. But the materialism is not right or wrong either. Having 50 million cars like Floyd Mayweather, that's not right or wrong either. It's just, if the foundation is built on gook, then he's never going to be satisfied with $100 million, $200 million. He gets $1 billion, he's going $3 billion. It doesn't stop because you can't stop it. It's a monster, the success monster. We were born successful. As Les Brown used to say, we survived 1 million sperm fighting to get into that egg. We're already successful. I don't need to have a movie deal to be valid as a human being. And someone said to me the other day, they said a couple years ago, when, you know, as the social media frenzy started to build, it gives you relevancy. Social media makes you relevant. If you don't have the numbers, you're not relevant.
Absolutely.
What is that doing to a person's psyche?
Thank you.
Okay? It's not right or wrong. It's just something that we can observe and go, do I choose that or don't choose that? You know.
But then it's what's driving it. You got to get to the root of what is driving this. Because look, you can get down to even good works, where you have people out here doing extraordinary things. But when you sit and you get to the root of it and you look at what's driving that, you're like, ugh. You know, you're like, the work is good. You're helping a lot of people, but this is that's not a good foundation to build on. That's not a good force to be driven by. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. And then it makes you question, what if someone is being driven by that and then they get up and they begin to fix, or they decide to build on something completely different? They're no longer building on that foundation. Then you start to question, is your passion still the same passion? Would you still choose the same career? Would you still live in the same neighborhood? Would you, you know, like if that's fixed, like then you have to ask, what does the life look like now? Well,
watch this. If I get a chance to talk to Kanye, I would share this with him. And it's not original. I got it from Eckhart Tolle. He said, choice is only a choice if you're aware of it. You could have $1 million stuck inside this table, but if nobody knows it, do you really have a choice to get it? So Harriet Tubman understood that her being a slave was a choice. She made the choice to leave. most people didn't think it was a choice.
Right.
So in their consciousness, they
Right.
had no choice.
Yes.
So Kanye is absolutely correct on one end, and also unaware on the other end.
Yeah.
And if people could understand that we always have choice, we're just not aware. So the awareness takes us out of the old model and says there's space to create something that's totally not based on that.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah. That's a beautiful sense of awareness too.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we can have an interview for no reason.
Right.
Not just to get numbers up
Right.
or look good or
Right.
show ourselves off, but just because we choose to have this conversation right now for this audience.
Right.
Period.
Period.
Right.
We don't need a reason.
No additionals included necessary.
Nothing. Nothing necessary. That we would use for validation.
Yeah. Good stuff. Are we moving
Yeah,
on,
we pass.
Miss Engineer, or because I know we had cut short at one point. So
Yeah, well, we're right where we started.
okay.
Because we
Okay.
started 5 minutes late.
Okay. Well, wow, I hate to end it.
Can I just plug?
This has been
can I
so
just
great.
plug-
Yes,
Can
yes,
I just
please.
plug First Generation College Bound?
Yes.
Mhm.
My good friend Joe Fisher out in Laurel, Maryland. I'm out here, as I am most years, to celebrate his work that he's doing with First Generation College Bound, an organization that supports low to middle income families to get their kids into college. A lot of kids don't believe they can go to college. They don't know they have a choice. So what Joe does is to show them, if you do this, this, and this, we'll get the money for you. We'll show you where the money is. But you gotta fill out the paperwork. And so he helps our community. And matter of fact, we have a school right here, Central High School, that is one of our big participators. And throughout Maryland, and which we're probably gonna go nationwide with this program.
Cool.
But we had our 2018 celebration ceremony last week, and it's just amazing to see that it's possible. The barriers are only in our mind, and that's what First Generation College Bound is helping people to see. If you want to send your kids to college, or if you're a high school student, and you want to go to college, we have a plan. We have the experience to show you how to get in.
How can they get more information about program?
First Generation College Bound, fgcb.org.
Okay.
fgcb.org.
All right.
And we also need support from the community. So you can go on the website, you can donate, you can find out about our programs, and I'm going to be leading a workshop on communication next week for some of the staff members I'm very excited about. And if college is something that you think you want to do, but you're not sure how you're going to afford it, come talk to us.
Right. Appreciate that. I do want to get in the promos that we were so intertwined into the conversation that kind of missed us. But we are here at Elife Studios, which is located inside of Everlasting Life Vegan Restaurant and Lounge. We're at 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Everlasting Life is one of 3 locations, 2 others being Vegaritos as well as Evolve, and they both are located within the Tacoma Park section of Washington, D.C. So if you can't get over here to us at Capitol Heights, definitely check out the other 2 locations, same great tasting food. As well as here at the Everlasting Life location, we do so much more than just provide you with great tasting healthy food. There's a full lounge, and then we have a lot of different events that take place within the lounge. Each and every Thursday night from 6 to 8 p.m., children eat free right here. Not only do they eat free, but they come and they intermingle with other children of their age group, 12 and under, and they do different activities together. I think last week they went out to the park together, so it becomes a big playground, big family-oriented event. So every Thursday, bring the children from 6 to 8 p.m. Following that up is Dinner and a Movie. From 7 to 9 p.m. each and every Friday, we air a different documentary, something informative, and then we house a discussion about what we've seen, and that's always free. That goes on every Friday from 7 to 9. That's our Dinner and a Movie. If you're interested in more information, follow us on the Facebook page, Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge Facebook page for that. Every first Saturday of the month, we host our Black Wall Street Renaissance. All-day shopping from 12 to 6 p.m. We open the stage for different lecturers, entertainers, workshops, things of that nature as well. That's always free, so come join us and help us circulate the dollar within our own community. And the marketplace, every third Saturday of the month, we do house another marketplace, healthy fresh produce, natural supplements, organic herbs and spices, vegan groceries. You can get all that and more right here every third Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. Again, that's at Everlasting Life at 9185 Central Avenue. Elife Studios, if you see what Hanifah and I do here each week, and you think that you have a voice that should be heard on a larger audience, consider joining us here as one of our family members on Elife Studios. So we're looking for people in front of as well as behind the camera. So you can reach out to us online to get more information about that as well. All right, family, that is our Empower Hour with Tico Wells.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh
for
man, thanks for
Bless you.
sharing.
Love y'all.
Love you too.
This is great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, can't wait for the next time.
Yes.
All right.
All right, family. Until next week, take care. Peace. Oh man, you still on?
Thank you so much.
All right, good stuff. Real good stuff.
That was nice.
Yes.
That was a rush. I'm high.
I know, right? that endorphin stuff going on.
I'm feeling good.
Let me
Feeling good.
close this Facebook
Do some
page
things
down.
with what we just
Facebook family, share the information,
Sure.
please, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.